Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. I'm working on a project today because I got some more fabric. About this time last year I received a great big bundle of leather pieces, and apparently this guy, he makes furniture for a caravan company, a local caravan company, and he's got more leather for me. So this is what I received yesterday. It weighs a ton, and I need to make something with all of these pieces. So I want to try and find something that's really quick and easy to make. There's lots of odd shaped pieces, so I just want to make lots of different pouches. And I've worked on a couple of different ideas, but this is one that I'm working on today. So we have a tiny little, it's probably like a taco shaped pouch or a shell shaped pouch. I'm making them out of leather. I'm also making it with vinyl, so upholstery vinyl. And you may remember some time back I received some material that is made to use banners or signs, and this is the stuff here. It's big stuff like this. So I've got tons of that as well, and I thought I'd have a play and see how these different products fare when I make up some little pouches. So you guys get the pleasure of coming along with me and getting up to a little bit of mischief. Let's get straight to it. The first thing that we're going to do is create a template. Now you can make this in any size you like. So I've got a 6-inch circle here. I've got a plate that is about 8 inches across. I probably wouldn't go less than 6 inches though. So what we're going to do is fold this piece of paper in half, and this is going to be 1/2 of our little pouch. Once you've folded that sheet in half, we're going to measure 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to mark a straight line going across. This line, I'm only going to mark it in a pencil because it's not a permanent line, but that's where we want our circle to stop. And that was on the fold. So grab your plate or whatever circle you've got, and we're going to bring the plate down to its widest point and mark a circle going around the paper. We're going to measure the same 1/2 inch or 1.3 centimetres on both sides. So we're not marking the 1/2 inch from the bottom here, we're marking it from this intersection there. Now we can cut this out. And we'll cut around the curve. So there is our finished template. So we've got this folded in half. You can go and cut this down the centre so that you can cut out your 2 pieces, or you can just double your fabric layer. You now have 2 pattern pieces. You don't have to use both of them. You can just use one if you want to. But if you're working on something like vinyl or this, whatever this medium is, you'd want to lay them out separately. Pop your paper over your vinyl or leather and cut out those shapes. So I have a couple of vinyl pieces here. This is actually using the smaller circle. I also have a couple of pieces of vinyl that I'm going to use, and for each one of these pieces we're going to need a tab, and this will be the binding strip for the inside of the bag. So I've got a piece here. If it ends up being too thick I won't bother using it. This one works pretty well because it's quite thin. And then I also have some leather material, And you guys know I've got the craft cutting machine by Locklick. If you've got a Cricut or Silhouette machine, you can go and put these shapes onto your computer and cut them out really quickly using your craft cutting machine. So this leather is medium in thickness, I'd say. So I've gone and done 3 passes over each of the shapes. So this is enough to make 2 pouches for me. So I like this idea because it's going to be a lot quicker and I don't have to go and measure anything. Once you've got your template done on the computer, then you can just go and stick your fabric pieces down and cut them all out. You can be doing that whilst you're sewing up another piece. So I've got leather, a vinyl or a plastic, and this is a vinyl. So with the Locklick machine, using the software that I've got on the computer, I'll set up the layout the way I want it according to the fabric pieces that I have. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll just click start and away it goes on the Locklick cutting machine. So this is a huge time saver. It's not a machine I use very often, mostly because I don't have any space in my sewing room to put it. So it's sitting on the coffee table at the moment. But it's a nice quick way to do lots of these little pouches. To work out the length of your zip, you're going to measure from here to here. Now this is a smaller circle, so that for me is 9 inches. Just for comfort, I'm going to add an extra inch on each side, so that'll be 11 inches or 28 centimetres for the small 6-inch circle. If we're using the big one, this is nearly 8 inches across or 19.5 centimetres. Just measure the distance around the outside of that curve, and that is almost 13 inches or 33 centimetres. Then I would add an extra 2 inches just to give that extra couple of centimetres on either side. So you can use a regular dress zip or those number 5 continuous zips. I think because there's going to be a lot of bulk, I might go with a regular zip today. I have done a couple with the number 5s, which I'll show you later on. So I'll grab that one. Maybe I'll use that. And I'll make a leather one as well. First thing we're going to do is place right sides together. Now we don't need to use double-sided tape for this, and in fact it won't be any good to do that because we need to open our seams. I'm also not changing my thread because the plan for me is to make these in bulk, and the less I have to change the better. So I've done all of mine so far with cream thread and it seems to look okay. It's a design feature. So let's grab the red one, line those up, and we can take this to the machine and sew straight down here for both of those. Once you've done that, you're going to open this out and you're going to press these seams open. And once those seams are pressed open, we're going to top stitch both of those edges all the way across. So we'll do that at the machine. Let's go and do both of these. Now, because we're working with leather or vinyl, we do need to put a Teflon or leather foot onto our machine. If you don't have one, then try a walking foot with those edges lined up. I'm going to place the fabric under the machine, bring my foot down, but I'm going to bring the needle down before I start sewing. And that's because I don't want the layers of fabric shifting when it all of a sudden takes off. So I'll reverse here, and then I'll go forward all the way to the end. And backstitch. And that's that seam done. So now we can press this open. Our seam allowance was 1/4 inch. It's up to you what you have. Our box corners are going to be a little bit skewed anyway, so I don't think it will really make much difference. But we don't need too big a seam allowance. So with the seam spread open underneath, I'm going to come down and sew on one side. I'm using the inside edge of my foot and running that along that seam line, and that'll give me a nice straight stitch. I haven't changed my stitch length because I'm just too lazy. When you get to the end, rotate your fabric, do a couple of stitches, rotate your fabric again, make sure that seam is spread open, and line up the edge of your foot on that seam again. And that's the bottom of our pouch done. I'll do the same for this red vinyl. Bring the needle down and backstitch. And we'll open that seam as well. Double check that the seam on the other side is open. So with both of those, I've used a cream thread for my top stitching. And I think the cream against the red actually looks nice. So it does make a nice design feature. Okay, so those are looking nice and neat. Now we're going to attach our zip. We're going to attach our fabric to the top side of the zip. So where the metal bars are down here, we're going to keep that out of the way. So around about here is where we're going to start, and you just want to make sure that as you're sewing you've got enough zipper tape left to finish the project. Now I'm not going to put my zipper foot on, I'm going to leave that same Teflon foot on, and I'm running the edge of the foot along the edge of the teeth of the zip. And with these zips, there's usually a guide or a line that you can see. So you've got the zipper teeth, there's a bit of a gap of only about 2 millimeters, and then you've got a different direction of stitching, I guess. It's more of a woven look, and then there's only 1 or 2 millimeters on the edge. So the zipper foot will run right along the edge of your teeth, but I'm going to line the fabric up along this edge that you can actually see on your zip. So just have a really good close look at your zipper tape. You can see the difference in the weave, and I'm going to line up the fabric right on the edge of that weave as I go, and the presser foot will run right along the edge of the teeth. So hopefully you'll be able to see that properly at the machine. We're going to take this piece and just place that directly over the top of the tape. The edge of my foot is lined up with the edge of the zipper teeth, and the edge of the vinyl is going to sit about 1/8 of an inch or 2 millimeters from the needle, which will be along the side of the change in the weave. So as I'm going, I'm just guiding this piece over to the right because of the curve, but I'm keeping the foot right along the teeth. If your vinyl or your leather is really stiff, you can just pick that up. So So there we have the curve of the zip going around the curve of the vinyl. And that's how that's going to sit when it's finished. Now we need to start in the correct spot on the other side. So what I like to do is just fold the vinyl over to meet at the bottom of the corner there. And you can mark it with a pin or a pen. Just place a mark on the zipper tape there. And on the other side, because I can't remember which side we're starting with. So before we open the zip all the way, you can bring the vinyl together like this and just position the zipper tape onto the other side, just so that you can get your bearings right, because sometimes it can get a bit confusing. So hold that there, open up the zip all the way. And we want this zipper tape on this side. It's upside down. Just bring that to the back like that. And I've got my little mark on the edge of the zipper tape here. I'm going to place my fabric over the top, right along that line. Ideally, the zipper tape would be a fair bit longer. This is why we need that extra inch or so if you're using a regular zip. And if your zipper tape isn't long enough that it's going to extend so that you can put your foot down properly, go forward a bit, hold it in place. Just go forward until your foot can come down comfortably. Bring the needle down. Then you can turn your work around. And so toward the end here, back stitch, and then you can turn around and continue on forward. You wouldn't have this problem if your zipper tape were longer. I just didn't have anything longer. So once you've sewn the zipper tape in place, we've got the opening of the zipper tape here with the right side of the material faced up. Bring the edges, the curved edges together, and line up the tape where that metal bar is. And with the zip open, we're just going to stitch over the zipper tape to join that up. So that's how that looks on the other side with the zipper tape just sealed at the end there. And that's going to stop the slider from coming off. Now we're going to close our zip. We'll just bring it halfway. And we'll go to this end. And what you want to do is press this down. And spread that apart. Turn it around. And as I mentioned earlier, the corners are going to be a little bit wonky. It's not like a standard box corner, because different zips will have different outcomes. Using the bigger number 5 zip, you'll have less of a lip at the top here. We can fudge that. So place the center seam, that's going to be the bottom of your pouch, along the center of your zipper tape. We'll place this under the machine here, and the edge of the presser foot is at the end of the seam on the pouch, so at the end of this seam, and we'll just sew across. back stitch over the zip. Now if your fabric is too thick for you to put a tab on the end or a binding on the end, then just run over this one more time. Just for added strength. And on the other side we've got the zip. Bring those layers together, line up that zip with the seam that you have underneath. Once you're happy with that, we'll sew over that as well. So once you've finished sewing those corners, you're going to need to put some tabs on, and that's really up to yourself whether you think you need them. We're going to chop off the end of the zipper tape here, and I feel as though putting a binding on this is going to be a little bit too thick to sew over with my machine. I know I'll get through it, especially using a regular dress zip instead of the number 5. I will get through it, but I'd rather not go through that stress. So with the leather one, the material is quite a bit thinner, and I can easily put a binding strip on to make that look neater. It's really not going to be noticed. It is going to give it more support on the inside though. So you cut your, you'll have your little strip, and this is oversized. We're going to place this over the top so the right side, not the wrong side, is facing the top of the stitching we've just done, and we're going to sew over that seam that we've already got. Just like that. Then we'll flip it over, and you can see how this is a lot bigger than we need, and we're going to sew over that seam we've already done. And that's the end bound. When we get over to the cutting table, we'll cut that off later. We'll do the same for the other side. Fold it over. And that's our pouch completely finished, except for the edges that we need to cut off. I'm going to stop being a coward, and I'll see how I go putting this strip on. I'll flip that one over, fold that over. All right, so that wasn't so bad. But now that these pouches are finished, all we have to do is trim off that excess binding, and you can shape the edge as well if you want to. And we'll do the same with the red one. It ended up being a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I think the vinyl's just a really nice soft vinyl that it sews well. I just have nightmares with bindings. Let's have a look at the finished product. So you'll open up your zip, turn the bag around and poke out those corners. I really like this red one. And this leather is so soft. And there you have it. Little vinyl and leather pouches. This red one is a vinyl, this beige is leather. These are both using a number 3 regular dress zip. This one here is using the number 5 continuous zip. I've just cut it to size. Also in leather. I think that one's a little bit smaller. And this one here is also in leather. And this one here is using, I think it's vinyl, and it's the stuff they use to make poster boards, the flags that you have hanging up outside shops and banners and stuff like that. So that was given to me a long time ago. I had lots of this fabric or this material. So I've done a banner material, vinyl, and 3 leathers. And this piece of plastic is the sample swatch fabric plastic. It has a card inside telling you about the fabric, and I reckon this would do really well as one of these pouches. In fact, I think it's such a great idea. I'm going to quickly go and make one up. So what I've done is I've used one whole piece of this clear vinyl, going to make it the same size as the others, and rather than having seam across, I'm just going to leave this as is, and we'll see what happens with the box corners. All right, so I just had to go and turn this piece of plastic pocket piece into a little pouch. It's not for the faint-hearted. I put the zip on the wrong way. Well, actually, I didn't put the zip on the wrong way because there is no wrong way. But when I did the box corners, I did them inside out. So I had to turn it back the right way around and then also do French seams. If you decide you want to use a clear plastic, I would recommend binding the edge of the plastic first, and that way you're not going to see all those ripples in the zip, because with these ones you're not going to see it at all because we've got solid bags and you can't see anything on the other side. In fact, when you're using the little pouch for your coins or whatever you're doing, you never actually see the rippling in the zipper tape. But for the clear one, you definitely do. So I would recommend binding the vinyl first. So there you go, having fun this morning. I think it's time for lunch. Well, what did you think of that project? I'm not sure that this is the way I want to go to get rid of all of the vinyl pieces or the leather pieces that I have. I don't know what I was thinking making this. It's very cute, but I tell you, it was a headache trying to turn those little corners through. But if I were to do this, I actually would really like to do this in clear, so using the clear vinyl. I think they would look really cool with a nice brightly coloured zip and a binding on the edge. So I'll keep my mind open. I'll have a think about it because I just don't have time to make them, but I really would love to make some of these for the shop. I think they would do really well. But these ones I think will do fine as well. I don't necessarily need to do them in vinyl because I like to use my vinyl for my other bags, but I've got so many leather pieces. This is a really tiny one. Plenty of room in there for some coins. So it'll be a good one for the guys because there's not many sewing projects that we have for the guys. And these will make nice little Christmas gifts for them as well. So lots of different sizes and colours and different mediums as well. So the binding on the inside gives a little bit of stability on the side, helps it to sit up too, or helps it to stop flopping in on the sides. Still hate binding, so I'm not really happy with the corners. I haven't quite worked out how to get the angles right when I do box corners for something with a curve or something that gets angled. So I've still got a little bit of learning to do there. If anybody's got any hints or tips for me, you please let me know. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I'm going to put them in the shop for $10 each. That's my plan anyway. I do want to have some pouches for the guys. I don't know whether I'll continue with these or just maybe make some more flat pouches. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.